Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Today I'm reading part 9 of Ananda, Guardian of the Dhamma. The author is Helmuth Hecker. The Last Days of the Buddha. Single most important sutta highlighting Ananda's relationship to the Buddha is the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, the chronicle of the Buddha's last days and ultimate entrance into Nibbana. These records convey a special mood, the mood of parting, which was especially painful of Ananda. It is also the first small beginning of the decline of the Dhamma, which will gradually disappear with increased distance from the Buddha's lifetime until a new Buddha arises. This entire text gives, as it were, voice to the admonition to practice the Dhamma while there is still a chance. It reflects once more Ananda's whole character, and therefore we will follow its course, emphasizing those passages in which the spotlight falls on Ananda. The first section of the sutta starts at Rajagaha, the capital of the state Magadha. Devadatta's attempt to create a schism in the Sangha had failed 7 years earlier. King Ajatasattu still reigned in Magadha. King Pasenadi of Kosala had been overthrown, and the Sakyan clan had come to its tragic end, in which many of Ananda's close relatives were killed. At that time, 3 famous warriors clans lived north of the river Ganges near the Himalayas. There were the Kolyas, the Mallas, the Vajrayans, all of whom had retained relative independence from King Ajatasattu. They had the intention of destroying the Vajrayans and incorporating their land into his growing empire. While the Buddha could not prevent the ruin of those Sakyans who had not entered the order, as they had to pay a kamic debt, he did help the Vajrayans and later indirectly also the Mallas. This is the external political background of the last years of the Buddha's life. In detail, this incident happened as follows. King Ajatasattu gave orders to his minister, Vasakara, to go to the Buddha and announce his intention to enter into battle against the Vajrayans. While Vasakara delivered his message, the Venerable Ananda was standing behind the Buddha, fanning him. The Enlightened One turned to Ananda and put 7 questions to him about the lifestyle and conditions of the Vajrayans. In reply to these questions, Ananda declared that the Vajrayans often had council meetings and deliberated harmoniously, and did not repeal their old laws, followed the advice of their elders, did not rape women, honored their temples and shrines, and did not revoke gifts to religious places, and gave protection and hospitality to all true priests and ascetics. With these 7 qualities, said the Buddha. One cannot accept prosperity for the Vajrayans, not decline. Sometime earlier, the Buddha had given them these 7 rules. The king's minister replied that even one of these qualities would be enough to ensure their continued existence as a clan. As long as the Vajrayans kept to these 7 rules, it would be impossible for the king to conquer them, except through inner dissension or treachery. Basakara left with this conviction in mind and reported to the king that it would be useless to start a war with the Vajrayans. Indians in those days had so much confidence in the spiritual strength of a people that the hint of moral superiority was sufficient to sufficient to prevent a war. Only much later, after the demise of the Buddha, it was possible for the king to overrun the Vajrayans, and this only because they had meanwhile forsaken their moral integrity. This highly political discussion was used by the Buddha as an occasion to request Ananda to call all the monks of the area together. He would have give them an exhortation about the 7 things that would enable the Sangha to flourish. The bhikkhus should assemble frequently and should conduct their affairs amicably. They should not make new rules but obey the old ones. They should honor the elders of the Sangha and give heed to their advice. They should resist craving, enjoy solitude, and practice mindfulness at all times, so that like-minded persons would be attracted, and those who were already living the holy life would be happy. After the Buddha had addressed the monks in this way, he gave them the following terse summary of the teaching, which recurs many times throughout this narrative. Such is virtue, such is concentration, such is wisdom. Concentration fortified with virtue brings great benefits and great fruits. Wisdom fortified with the concentration brings great benefits and great fruits. The mind fortified with wisdom is liberated from all cankers, namely from the canker of sensual desire, the canker of desire for becoming, and the canker of ignorance. After this exhortation, the Buddha commenced his last journey. He always went to places where there were people ready to understand the Dhamma, or where misunderstandings need to be sorted out, or where brute force could be prevented. On this last journey, he went first in the direction of the Ganges River to Nalanda, which later became a famous Buddhist educational center. This town was near Sariputta's birthplace, and here Sariputta took leave of the Buddha. He wanted to stay behind and teach the Dhamma to his mother before he attained final nibbana. When saying farewell, this great disciple voiced once more the Buddha's praise. It is clear to me, Lord, that there is no one more distinguished in wisdom than yourself. Then the awakened one went to a large company of monks to Vesali. The town was the capital of the Vajrayans, whose virtue he had praised and from whom he had averted the threat of King Ajata Satu's attack. At Visali, he fell ill with a deadly disease which he suppressed by sheer willpower, as he did not want to die without having assembled the disciples once more. That a Buddha can become ill is due to the imperfection of the body, but that he can master the illness at will is due to his spiritual perfection. Ananda had been despondent over the Buddha's illness, so dejected that he could not think properly. He told the Buddha that he had found consolation in the fact that surely the awakened one would not attain final nibbana without having given some regulations about the order to the monks. But the Buddha rejected this. What more does the Sangha expect from me, Ananda? I have taught the Dhamma without making any distinction of esoteric and exoteric doctrine. There is nothing that the Tathagata holds back with the closed fist of a teacher. Whoever thinks that it is he who should depend who thinks that who should lead the Sangha of Bhikkhus, or that the Sangha of Bhikkhus depends upon him, such a one would have to give last instructions. But the Tathagata has no such idea. So what instructions should he have to give the Sangha of Bhikkhus? The Buddha continued, Now I am almost 80, Ananda. I have come to the end of my life, and I can maintain the body only with difficulty, just as one maintains a dilapidated old cart. My body is at ease only when I enter upon and dwell in the sightless deliverance of the mind. But the master immediately gave Ananda an antidote for the sadness caused by these words. So, Ananda, each one of you should be an island unto yourself. Dwell with yourself as a refuge and with no other as your refuge. Each of you should make the Dhamma your island. Dwell with the Dhamma as your refuge and with no other as your refuge. The third section of the sutta is located at Visali, where the Buddha stayed for the rains retreat. One day after the rains, he requested Ananda to take a sitting mat and accompany him to the Kapala shrine in order to pass the day there in meditation. When they were seated, the Blessed One looked at the peaceful landscape before him and reminded Ananda of the many beautiful spots in the vicinity. The reason for this seemingly unmotivated description of the countryside becomes clear later. The Buddha then said, Anyone who has developed the four roads to physic power, made them his vehicle and his foundation, could, if he wished, lived out the eon or the remainder of the eon. The Tathagata has done all that, and he could, if requested, live to the end of this eon. But although Ananda was given such a plain and broad hint, which certainly coincided with his own longings, he did not beg the Buddha to stay alive out of compassion for all beings. Not only once, but a second and third time the Buddha addressed Ananda in the same way. But each time Ananda failed to catch the hint. In his confusion, his mind had been ensnared by Mara, the evil one, who still had some degree of power over him. There is nothing more dreadful than the habit of doubt. Doubt separates people. It is a poison that disintegrates friendships and breaks up pleasant relations. It is a thorn that irritates and hurts. It is a sword that kills. May every living being, our minds is one and radiant with light. Share the fruits of peace with heart of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find and give in unity, may their minds awake to great compassion and wisdom and to joy. May kindness bring reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha.